Afternoon. This must be the coffee drinker group. I'm Sister Jan Grigorsich, and over here is John Kennedy, the brother of our Sister Mary Kennedy from Honduras. She works in Monteverde, and I was in Honduras a long time ago after Hurricane Mitch. I volunteered to go over and help our sisters, and that's where I thought I'd be helping with beans and rice and distribution, and instead they wanted to be the director of the sewing academy, and I don't sew. But I learned you can do anything if you get the right people in place. But that's how I got to know Sister Mary a lot better. I got to know the conditions of Honduras, and so I am just so proud that John is willing to do this for his sister. Now, if I had a brother who'd be willing to promote something that I'm doing, I would love that too. But I'm going to let John talk about the work of his sister, and just know how grateful I am that he's promoting not just Mary's work, but the work of the School Sisters of Notre Dame in Honduras.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Wait a minute. I wanted to tell you how we got started with all this. This is Barb Carpentier. She's one of our associates. And when we started this coffee distribution a couple of years ago, maybe, Barb introduced the coffee to the senior group in Wauwatosa. And so this morning, she had set up a whole group in Wauwatosa at the Civic Center there. And people were very interested in the coffee from Honduras there. So as long as it's only like 10 minutes apart, I thought this would be a good time to not only go to the Tosa Center, but to also come to Trinity. So that's, thank you to Barb, we're all here.
It's a delight to be with you this afternoon. I thank both Sister Jan and Barb for making this happen. It's a delight to talk about the work that my sister and other sisters are doing in Honduras and the people there. And it was a long time ago that Mary introduced me to the work of the carvings here of one fellow who was a wonderful carver, but he was being taken advantage of. He was working in a place where the carvers would work right out in front of the tourists. You know, it was a tourist place. And this trunk, for example, they would sell it for about $250, but they would give this young carver only about 50 of it. And so they said, no, that's not going to work. So they helped him to get set up independently, and I took an interest in his work. And then in the community where Mary is, in Monteverde, they've long had for generations families who grew coffee, but they never brought their coffee to the level that it could have had they done some things differently. For example, they didn't become familiar with better fertilizers and better insecticides and better growing practices and better strains of beans. And so Mary introduced them to some specialists in that area from the Honduran government who helped them to learn more about the beans and how to grow them and have shade for them and bring in Arabica strains of beans. And one other important element is they never had the opportunity to work together with their crop. People would come in, and I'd say opportunists, and they called them coyotes, and what I would, based on their sordid methods, the other names I would call them, I left in the car. But I mean, they were unfair with the people. For example, they would go to a single grower when the beans were still in the flower stage, and they would say, we can buy your whole crop. We'll buy it now in the flower, and we'll pay you in advance. And when your crop comes in, if there's more, we'll pay you more. If there's less, we'll just ask you to reimburse us for the difference. But they would only offer 20 to 40 cents a pound for their beans. And they didn't know the difference because they didn't have any exposure to the outside world, and they needed the money desperately. And so Mary said, there's one other thing you could do, and that would be to form a cooperative. Instead of giving your beans away one at a time to these opportunists, why don't all of you agree to sell your crop as a group. And so they formed a cooperative, and I can't remember the name of it. It's COAINLL. I couldn't even pronounce it if I knew what it was. But yeah, it might be.
You can keep talking, I'll just
Okay,
get hold of something and
yeah.
find it on
And
there.
so they formed the co-op, and now my sister Mary, by the way, is home. She just got back to the States this past Thursday, and so we all gathered down in our home area. There were 8 of us there. There's 11 kids in total. One of them went to heaven already, and 2 joined us by Zoom. But anyway, Mary's in the States right now. And I told her I was doing this, and I would have loved to have had her here, but she also had to go to a doctor and get some medical attention. But in any case, they formed their co-op, and Mary told me just on Sunday that there are 80 members now in this co-op. And that's pretty good for such a small village for them to have had that kind of cohesiveness. And so I thought, well, they can sell wholesale, and even good wholesale prices down there are $2 or $2 in some sense a pound, which they never dreamed they would get. And so that's a very good thing, but I thought it's not good enough. And so a young guy who was down on a mission trip from Belleville, Illinois, our native territory, fell in love with the cause of the coffee, and he talked his dad into helping to form an importing company, so that they imported just the Monte Verde coffee into the U.S. and brought it to Belleville, Illinois. And so I thought, well, let's try roasting some of it and selling it roasted for we started out at $8 a pound a few years back, and then we had to bite the bullet and go to 9, and then we went to 10, and just on October 1st, we had to bring it up to $12 a pound to be able to keep going and to meet the rising expenses of transportation and the expense of the beans themselves. I think in 20 and 21, there was a freeze in some of the highlands of Brazil, and it raised the coffee prices, and so it was harder for us to get. And so anyway, that's where we are right now. And so with the profit margin from selling roasted coffee, now we're able to send even more money back, and also to make some contributions to the School Sisters of Notre Dame. So that's what brings us together here today. Sister Jan and Barb said it would be a good idea to try to give you a picture of what it's like to go from the pod on the tree to the cup in your hand. Who drinks coffee here, by the way? Yeah. This is called the customer base. All right, yes. Right on. So we're just going to introduce you to some good coffee here, without bragging. So Jan, would you help me? We're going to start with the guy's the picture with the green all around him in a green tree. So here is a father, looks like a father and son next to a tree. And the trees, by the way, are only about 8 to 10 feet tall. They're not tall trees at all, but they're laden with these coffee beans. They start out in this green pod, sort of like peas, but there's lots of them, and you pick them one by one. They're unbelievably small. And so, but they don't pick them until they actually turn to red. Now watch, I'm going to have Barb or Sister Jan. I'm sorry, I'm going to have Sister Jan run back up here and get the picture with the guys with the beans in the red. That's right, we should. Here, what we'll do is we'll just start another one out. Start it on the left side here.
Oh my God. I always thought it was.
Oh, Barb, you gonna help run?
And this second picture shows the beans in their red stage. And so then they pick them. And so a tree might produce beans for 3 months, and it'll have some green beans at the very beginning, and then those will turn red, and more green beans come on. So they'll produce for about a 3-month period. All right, and then the one with the guy grinding, there you are. And so then they have to take the hulls off. It's like taking the pea out of a pod, and they do this with a mechanical thing. And as Barb will show you, you'll see all the pods on the ground below. So then they get the bean out of there, and then they have to wash them immediately to get all the scum and the stuff inside the pod off of the beans. So then after they're washed, then they're dried. And I had some slides, but we weren't able to match up our technology. But they have these big barns that are plastic, plastic sheeting, like 10 mil or 15 mil plastic. And they're very sturdy. And so the sun shines on these beans and they're in these long trays. And you take like a hoe and they rotate these beans back and forth for about I'd say about a 2-week period so that they're nice and dry. And then after, you're all over it. So after they get them dry, then they're bagged. And these bags have an inner plastic liner, which is pretty much waterproof. I found out in my own basement that that's the case. And then they're put in these burlap sacks, and they're about 150 pounds apiece. So then once the bags then are taken from the drying area, the farmers load them on the truck, and then they take them to the wholesale markets. So then the wholesale they're priced and they are bid on. Actually, it's a bidding process, just like tobacco and some other products. And then the majority of them are exported. A lot of them are exported to the United States. But what we wanted to do was to get this quality of beans. By the way, they're winning tasting contests with these beans, which is incredible because it hasn't been all that long that they've been trying to improve this crop. So they can command a competitive price for these beans. Not only that, we can get our hands on them and get them up into the States, which we've done. We pick them up in Belleville, and we bring them. I live in Winona, Minnesota. It's right up the river from La Crosse, Wisconsin, on the Mississippi. And we get them roasted in a coffee shop that's nice enough to roast our beans. And what they're doing is they're helping us as sort of like a competitor, but that's okay with them because they like the idea that we are selling these in fair trade. You know what fair trade is? Yeah. Yeah, so you get as much of the money possible back to the very people who produce it. So then once they're roasted, they're bagged, as you'll see some bags. Here's an example one. This is a 1 pound bag. You go to the grocery store and you can also get these in 9, 10 ounces, 12 ounces. And so, once they find out how good this coffee is, they're going to buy a whole pound. And so this is kind of what they look like. And so the bag has it's sealed, air sealed at the top. And there's a little breather, they call it a breather button here, so that when the coffee goes into the bag, it's usually, the beans are at about 180 degrees and they're still breathing off some of their fumes. And so they put that button on there so those fumes can come out. And when they're freshly roasted, I store these in my office. And so
I keep buying in the car.
It's coffee paradise. 6 days a week.
These are the supervisors.
Okay, thank you, Sister Jan. This is the posse. My brother Jerry and I, last time we went down together was 2017. And so the guys, my sister Mary tells these guys when we're coming, and they don't have to sharpen their soccer skills because they're already sharp. But they know that they're just going to clean up on Jerry and me, so they're taking delight there. This is the picture right after they beat us up. So, but that's what it's all about anyway. If you can put 2 and 2 together to know that we're doing this for the generations to come. So anyway, the air button will let the continued breathing out of the bag, but it doesn't let air in. And so this coffee in this bag would stay relatively fresh for 6 months. But I don't remember the last time we sold coffee that was more than 4 weeks old, because we got a roaster right up the street. So this coffee was roasted on Thursday of last week. So it's only been roasted 5 days, yeah. So it's a great privilege for us to
And I want to know if they're
go in. Go.
Are there any strengths of coffee? Like mild?
That's a good question. We'd have to put it in front of a chemist to know that. But some of it is in the quality of the bean, and the other is
finish that and then we have more questions back.
Okay, and then the other part is, the grades, you're saying, the strength, some of that is done just actually in the brewing itself in your own home. I'll give you two examples. One, if you're used to brewing a certain amount of coffee in a certain amount of water for a certain period of time, and it's working out good for you, don't change it. But I heard, earlier this year, I heard for the first time, if you have even like a Mr. Coffee or just a conventional coffee machine, a drip coffee machine in your house, and on if you got a glass pot, and it tells you how many cups, you can brew 6 cups or 8 cups, try 8 cups or 10 cups. Put that water in there, and then don't even put any grounds in. Just turn it on and let it run through, like on a strong setting or a moderate setting, and let the water run through. And when the water is through, of course, it'll ring at you, right? It'll bing you or ding you, or it'll just shut off. That way you know how long did it take that water to get through. And then, use that water in some other way, but then put some more cold water in there, and then try different strengths of your beans. If you like a good, robust flavor, and you want to get up in the morning, and then you'd use maybe a few more grounds. Or if you would want it a little softer on your stomach, or you would want a little more mild flavor, then use fewer grounds. And so experiment with it in terms of strength. And was there another quality thing that I'm missing in your question?
Pardon?
Was there another quality issue or another grade?
No, it's just that I use a K-cup.
Okay, yeah, that's another good example.
That was the same question from the back too.
Yeah, and they can be, you can get the refills of those in Walmart or any of the department stores.
Really?
Yes, and they're so they're reusable, and
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
And so you can use these grounds. And by the way, these come in the whole bean. That's another issue, that they stay fresher longer if it's in the whole bean. Once you grind it, it dissipates its flavor sooner. So that's why it comes in the bean. Was there another question?
Yeah, how much is that bake that you were showing us?
They usually go for $1,000, but today, only. Can I tell them the deal? We've since April of last year, we've been able to sell these and send money down to Honduras at $10 a pound. But with the rising costs of everything else, eggs, milk, gasoline, and coffee, largely because of Brazil, on the 1st of October, just 2 weeks ago, we had to raise the price to $12 a pound. Turns out that's still pretty competitive for its counterparts, which I would say would be something like Costa Rican coffee, or Jamaican, or Guatemalan, Salvadoran coffee, Venezuelan coffee, Cuban coffee, Honduran coffee. They're kind of in a field of their own. They're just good coffee. And so this price, because we're doing this fair trade, at $12 a pound, is still a very price.
That's a pound of his
I belong to Our Lady of Lourdes.
Sorry.
I belong to Our Lady of Lourdes. And on the weekend, we had Oktoberfest. Guatemalan coffee was being sold for $15. So, and this coffee, I cannot tell you enough what a treat flavor it has. It's like I've never tasted coffee before. And I used to have this reflux, and since drinking this coffee, the acidity is low, and therefore that's gone. The acid reflux is gone. So I would encourage anybody who's interested,
We're gonna pass
giving
these
it a
down.
try.
Just smell, there's a little button there, you'll be able to smell.
Where you put your
I wonder.
There's a little button, just you'll smell. You'll smell.
Yes.
He wants to know where the coffee's sold. Where to buy it.
Oh, sure.
Our office, our shop in Winona is
Yes.
where it's sold, but
If you smell it
today,
on that side where the button is, you can just
because
press it.
Sister Jan has been,
No, these are the beans.
Those are the beans and then,
We only sell the beans right now.
okay. Only sell the beans.
because Sister Jan and Barbara Carpentier have been cultivating friends and people to buy the coffee, we'll bring it to you. We're hoping to be back, sometime,
So you'd have to grind it
if
yourself.
not before Thanksgiving, it would be the single digits of January that we hope to come back, so, okay, here's a picture of Sister Jan.
Guess who that is?
Sister Jan is that fellow's name appears on one of these bags. His name is Nolasco Lemus. And Nolasco, on a tall day in his heeled boots, stands about 5'1". And he probably weighs in about 140 or 145. But he's just a muscular guy. And on this day, we were down there and we had worked where they're being dried in the barns, in the air barns. And so I said, can you roast some of that for me? He said, so they got their hand cranked roaster going, and they roasted some, and then they ground it, and then this is my first cup. That's the freshest cup of coffee I'll ever have in my life.
Do they have,
It
yeah, you
came,
didn't say there's medium
came
and
right
there's
from the
dark.
barn, right from the roaster,
Dark.
right into the
Medium
grinder,
and dark.
right in my cup. So, but Nolasco, he was the leader of the co-op now here for a number of years, and he just passed the baton on to somebody else.
Up here.
But a good family man, good business person. And another thing
You didn't
you
say,
should
but you
know
can get medium
is
brown or dark
that
brown.
these folks can work. I mean, they are, my family had a farm, we grew up on a farm, we knew what work was, but these people work. So I just invite you not to believe the stories about people being lazy coming up from the central American states. Anything else?
Jen, does he have coffee now?
Well, you ordered.
Yeah.
We have yours.
Is it upstairs or here?
Yours is here yet, I think.
So it's our, yes.
Can we order it today from you to be delivered at another time?
You know, I didn't bring the list along, but if you want to be in touch with Sister Jan,
Yeah, Sister Jan, can she talk to the people
Okay.
in the kitchen?
We might have a few extra pounds today.
but they're also asking if they could even get on a list to order some.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'd like to do.
It's right there at the shed where they're bagging. So we can get back to coffee in a second, but before I forget, I want to just give it a message about
I think that's
how my sister's work in Honduras has been so inspiring to not only to me, but to 7 other brothers of hers.
We have a few extra.
How
We'll have to see.
she's approaching 40 years in her service to School Sisters of Notre Dame, and the vast majority of that has been in Honduras. And I'd have to be completely insensitive not to respond to her I would call it mentoring. You know, her yes to God is something that can alter many lives, and it does, and it certainly has altered mine. And mine just shows itself in helping the Honduran people to get paid for the beautiful work that they do and the hard work that they do. And so, but it wouldn't be happening were it not for Mary. I didn't bring along any pictures of Mary, but if you'd like to come to my house, got some there and I got some on a computer. She's just a wonderful, wonderful human being. She's visiting the States right now, and so get one more chance with her.
Are you finished with coffee?
I think so. Any other questions?
I just want to show them some of the other work that people in Mary's
Jan.
Village.
We can't hear you.
Oh, you
Okay,
Was this dark or medium?
let's start.
It's dark.
John's going to hold up some of the other artisan work from the village where Mary is. And these things have been done by what's his name? Henry Hernandez. I have to tell you the story. When I was working in Honduras, in Sulaco, after Hurricane Mitch, he has this marvelous woodworking place, and he's teaching other people how to do this. Well, he got a speck of this sawdust in his eye, and he gives me his handkerchief, and he says, "Will you get this out of my eye for me?" And I was so afraid to put this hanky in his eye, but I got it out. It must happen a number of times because he knew exactly what to do to get that thing out. Did you show them the little purses? Okay.
Oh.
Tell them what it's made out of.
Okay.
I was wondering what
This is recycled, you know, if you want to promote sustainability.
Yeah, so these are just like your,
I think they're potato chip bags.
just like your snack bags there.
John,
Look at that.
what's it made out of?
Snack bags.
Snack bags. Snack bags. Snack.
Potato chips and other.